Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, Dustin Fox, Jason Lloyd, Tyvis Powell, plus, ba-da-da-da-da, you're loving him, Mikey McNuggets. And so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show starts now. Booyah!
What a moment! What a night! What a win!
Oh, look at the Kool-Aid!
Hey, the Kool-Aid is back!
Yes,
what color is
sir.
that? What flavor is that? Is that pineapple?
That looked like a tropical pineapple or pina colada.
Pineapple would be awful.
It's too close to Steelers yellow for my
I think it's
taste.
Steelers blood color.
Like I like that Steelers
Yeah.
blood.
Director Steve picked that color because it's supposed to be Steelers yellow.
Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that.
Well,
we'll take
can
that.
we mix in some red for their
Steeler
blood?
tears.
What a night! In the season that has been an absolute forgettable season, you hope for moments. Last night we got a lot of moments, and we got a win, something that we can cling to.
That's right.
I don't know if it was fool's gold. Myles Garrett looked like he ate spinach before the game and was the defensive player of the year, Myles Garrett. I loved his trash talk at the end of the game.
Absolutely. I was stunned that JJ's little brother didn't make the trip. He was inactive for the game. That was fascinating.
I wondered if he was on the field. I know he was on the field because I saw he couldn't catch Jameis on Jameis's touchdown.
Well, Jameis is a
Couldn't
burner.
bring him down.
He's a burner.
What a win. I mean, what an absolute win. We're going to give opening thoughts. Do you want to do a read first, or do you want to do our opening thoughts first?
Let's get a read in. Let's just knock
All
them
right.
out, and then we're going to spend 90 minutes uninterrupted on Browns. We're going to try to get through a bunch of topics. Then we got 30 minutes on WKYC
That's
later.
right.
We're going to spend the first chunk on the Browns. We will talk some Cavs and Guardians in the WKYC show, but it's a Victory Friday, guys, and that feels phenomenal. And you can tackle all the rest of the NFL action this weekend with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can bet on any game you want and sit back and know the Browns have already won. You don't have to sweat that out, which is a luxury. And right now, new customers on FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's go around the horn, guys.
Is that creepy Mike behind the glass?
Yeah,
The Victory Stash is back.
Oh, you haven't
Yes,
seen
sir.
it yet,
This is my
Jason.
first time seeing
Yeah.
it. How long
Oh.
are you keeping that ridiculous?
Well, his girlfriend, he was supposed to only keep it for one day, but his girlfriend likes it. So now she's the
dear God.
only one that
Gabby
likes it,
likes
but she
it,
likes
and
it.
now the Browns are 1-0 at the stash. So maybe it's a
Oh, my
Browns.
God.
They were
So
2
we're
and 8.
stuck with this?
You might be.
Oh,
At least for
Oh, no.
at least for a few
yeah.
days. But
I
either way,
love
guys,
Gabby, but what is she thinking?
Yeah, I don't know.
the Cavs won and the Browns have won with the stash. So maybe it's lucky.
No,
But
it's not.
We'll find out. Let's go around the horn. Bull, start with you on shotgun reactions to the Browns 24-19 dub over the Steelers.
For all the criticism of Kevin Stefanski this year, and some people said the team quit last week. Obviously, they played with a lot of fight yesterday, and that's after getting off to a pretty bad start. I mean, the offense, the first 2 drives, couldn't move the ball at all. The defense had the ball marched up and down the field on them, and the Steelers just kind of stalled out at the end. And then the game turned around after that when the Browns had that third possession and had that long drive after the Steelers had finally gotten on the board. They played hard. They played tough physically on both sides of the field. It wasn't a perfect effort. Obviously, Jameis threw that one really bad pick, but I thought the offense played pretty well overall, especially considering the conditions. I thought the defense played very well overall, and and the one thing I'll say about Kevin Stefanski through these 5 years, where it's been a lot of up and down and kind of mediocrity for the overall, he's always done a good job in the division. I think we talk about him beating the Bengals, but it's not just the Bengals. Overall, he's done well in the division. He's been a much better in-division coach than he's been an out-of-division coach, even though this is, well, not as good as we thought it was going to be, still a good division, and yet he's had a lot of success within it. Myles Garrett is the last thing I'll say before I move on to you guys. In the past, there's been some criticism of Myles Garrett when it comes to Steelers-Browns head-to-head. Clearly, he was motivated by matching up in a way with T.J. Watt. He was the much better player of the two, even though he's got much less talent around him. He was fantastic yesterday. He was impactful as TJ Watt has often been against us. Myles Garrett was the impactful pass rusher yesterday, and TJ Watt was not. So that was great to see.
Kevin has a winning record within the division.
Yeah,
which is
right.
stunning.
Yeah.
Because it's been one of the more difficult divisions during his tenure.
It's not. It's like 2 games over 500, but still, I mean, compared
It's
to
a winning record.
Yeah,
Better than
absolutely.
2
You
games
wouldn't
under.
have guessed that, considering his overall record in the division.
He's 2-1 in the division this year.
Right.
And 1-7 against everyone else.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. I left last night thinking Jameis Winston is starting to muddle up, I think, the Browns' plans a little bit for how this was going to go.
Oh, we're coming around.
No, listen, the only thing I've ever said is that they have not looked at him as a potential quarterback of the future.
And perhaps now they are.
I don't know that. I'm just saying that he has now played well enough to where you can't get him out of there.
Right.
So it's kind of a difficult spot to be in because what are you trying to play for? If you're trying to if you're trying to win as many games as you can, and I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm not saying one is the right path and one's the wrong path.
There
I'm
is
just
still
saying,
a path to the playoffs, by the way.
but there's not.
No,
But
there
there's
is.
not.
I should point that out. Is it likely to happen?
No. They're not
Almost
gonna win out.
incalculable. But
They'd have to win every game.
until a nail is driven through the heart, and you look at the standings and you look at what it's going to take to win that last spot. Are they going to do it? Absolutely not.
No.
Is there a mathematical path?
Sure.
100% yes, there is.
But like, what are you trying to get out of the season? Are you trying to win as many games as possible? You're not going to tank, and you're going to compete to the end, and then you're going to cost yourself a high draft pick. Okay.
Yeah.
That, like, if you want to go that route, that's fine. But know that the flip side of that is you're not going to be in position to try and get one of these top quarterbacks in the draft, and you're going to have to figure it out from there. The other path is to play the kid and lose games and try and get a higher draft pick. It looks to this point like they're just going to keep competing and try and win as many games as they can. And that's like, hey, listen, tanking comes with a lot of risks as well. Mm-hmm. So, but I think it's important to remember, they demoted him to third-string quarterback. They tried trading him. Mm-hmm. They signed him for $4 million. Nobody else wanted him. Like, $4 million for a starting quarterback in the NFL is minimum wage. Like, who is it? They paid $6 million for who was the
Andy Dalton?
No,
the old
Giants.
Vikings backup.
yes, the old Vikings backup.
Yeah.
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum.
Yeah.
They paid Case Keenum $6 million
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Right.
Nobody in the league wanted Jameis. That's been made abundantly clear. They got him for $4 million. They tried to trade him at the end of the preseason, and there were no takers. So now you're in this position of, are you going to keep running him out there? Can he be your bridge guy for the rest of this year into next year? Can he be the long-term answer? I've got no indication from anybody that he actually has a chance to be the long-term solution. And again, you can look at the yards.
That's a good thing. That means he probably is.
You can look at the yards he's put up. Like, since he's taken over, he's among the league leaders in passing yards per attempt. Like, there's a lot of metrics that we've seen the very best of Jameis, we've seen the very worst of Jameis. So I'm curious now to see where this goes the rest of the way. And, you certainly can't pull the guy at this point. So you're going to ride this out and see where it takes you.
When you ask what they're playing for, what are they playing for in this season? Frankly, they're playing for their jobs. I've always said it. I've always stood by the fact that if you want to lose games and you want to get a top draft pick, that's great, but you won't be the guy taking it, and you won't be the guy coaching the quarterback up that you're going to get, because they're going to look at it and say, look, this season and every season is about the pursuit of having a culture where you don't have peaks and valleys. We want to coach, for whatever they say about Mike Tomlin, he don't go under 500. And when it get bad and the quarterback hurt, it don't matter. He does what he does, and he gets a certain amount of wins. So I commend Kevin Stefanski. For having his team ready to play. I commend him for coming out in a game that was sloppy and nasty. It started slow. But if anybody had a question on whether or not that he has a pulse of his Browns team, look at Myles Garrett. Look how fired up he was. Look at the way Jameis Winston at quarterback had everybody ready to go. Offensive line looked really well. Nick Chubb got 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy now looks like he's showing his dividends of that trade and saying that this guy might be a second-round pick. And the biggest takeaway I take out of it is yeah, we do got to talk about Jameis Winston. So the Cleveland Browns should learn from their mistakes. Why do we always have to want to get to a place where we got to second guess things, right? Just a few weeks ago, we second guessed giving up Flacco, right? Everybody in the world said that. Well, why do we give him up? We've been second guessed about Baker and the way he's playing right now. Sometimes when people show you who they are, believe them. You got a guy in the building. He's a charismatic leader. Guys follow him. Look how many guys mobbed him when he scored that touchdown. He made throws in that game where Kirk Herbstreit himself said, I don't know how he got that throw over that defender in the blizzard. And I look at it, and the way I'm going to judge him is this. I've been sitting here, and we're all fans. How many times you done seen somebody beat the Steelers and the Ravens? Like, it ain't been that many times on my hand I could count them. I can't count on my hand times people throwing for 300-400 yards. He's not only threw for the 400 yards, he's beat the Ravens, he's beat the Steelers. And at least we should have the foresight in saying, guys, if we don't have a lineup for a quarterback in this draft coming up, Sam Darnold and the free agents aren't that great. The guy is sitting right here. The team is backing him. The team is following him. He's getting wins. We should learn and say, let's evaluate it. You don't got to jump off the roof right down and say he's going to be the bridge quarterback, but he sure as hell deserves an opportunity to prove what he's worth. And if don't nobody else in the league want to take him and his $4 million, that's on the league. Some people didn't want to take Patrick Mahomes. We're all sick about that, right? 10 teams didn't take him. Josh Allen.
Those are not fair comparisons.
Oh, it is. It is. What I'm saying.
No, it's not, because Jameis has played in the league 10 years.
What my premise is, we shouldn't be sitting around thinking about, just because no one else in the league did it, that means that we're wrong. No, sometimes you got to have a confidence in your evaluations, confidence in what you see. And by the way, I'll tell you what, you go in that locker room and ask any one of them 53 guys in there and ask them, don't they believe in Jameis Winston? And they're going to come back and tell you, what you think. You see yesterday?
Jay, your thoughts?
There's plenty of time later in the show to talk about like the global picture and where they are. I'll keep it to last night's game. My reaction to last night's game is this is a game that in the past they lose. We've seen it. We felt it last night when they gave up 2 touchdowns in 2 minutes after not giving up a single touchdown in the previous 51 minutes. We saw, the boulder has left the top of the mountain and it's going to crush the little house down in the village where the Browns lives. Something happened, and I'm going to equate it to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston threw a 2-point conversion with his communications device dangling in front of his face. I hope everybody watched the post-game show last night on Amazon. I couldn't take the smile off my face. I was smiling ear to ear the entire time I was watching him. Is he a bit cartoonish? Yeah, he is. But what I loved was Fitz on the set said, guys, this is not an act. This is who he is. He played with him in Tampa. He knows Jameis Winston. I've talked to other guys that played with him both at Florida State and with the Buccaneers. And they all say the same thing. This guy is crazy. This guy is he is high on life. He is always looking for the silver lining. Now, he's still the same guy that lost 35-14, throwing for 395, and looking like he should be a AFC Player of the Week, and somehow they weren't scoring points. What I know from watching last night is, in football, you need leaders. You absolutely have to have leaders. Baker was a leader. Deshaun Watson is not. Kevin Stefanski, guys, I don't think he's a natural-born leader. I think he's a bright coach who can X and O, but he's not Dan Campbell. He's not going to say, there's the hill, guys, let's go get it. I heard something last night from Jameis Winston. I learned a lot watching the postgame show. Those guys were as transparent and open as I've ever seen them. Myles Garrett completely trash-talked TJ Watt. Said, I'm number one. That title runs through me. And I love the fact that he went to what we always say. No one is schemed up to fail more than Myles Garrett. Yet here he is with 10 sacks for an incredible 7th straight season. Somewhere, Myles Garrett, before the game last night, found a leader switch. And Jameis, in his post-game interview with Amazon, said, you should have heard Myles Garrett before the game. Jason, Have we ever heard that about Myles Garrett?
Not in that sense. Not like that. I think what last night showed was that he took personal. Go back to the Michael Jordan meme. He took personally the night one of his biggest moments, biggest career accomplishments, winning Defensive Player of the Year. T.J. Watt's whining about it on Twitter.
Still hasn't talked to him since.
And I think you saw last night.
No, they talked last night.
No, he just said just at the pregame
At the
handshake that was
yeah.
it. But I read an
think-
article last night where somebody with the Browns said, yeah, they haven't talked since he won the award.
I think you saw last night how much, because like when TJ was winning Defensive Player of the Year, Myles never said anything.
Nope.
No.
So I think that showed you how much that annoyed Myles.
And so
that
here's
on
my
the
hope.
night of the ceremony, as he's winning the award, TJ's running his mouth on Twitter.
Right, which was a joke. Here's my point to bringing all that up. I don't know what gets Myles Garrett. I guess it's personal slights. But Myles, this is a plea from me and probably many other Browns fans to you. That energy that you used going into last night's game, that energy that forced you to give a pregame speech that Jameis Winston was moved by. Jameis Winston is the pastor on the team. He's the one giving the fire up speech. He talked about how your speech motivated the team. The Browns have been very quiet when talking about Myles Garrett being a leader. They'll say this, well, not everybody's a leader. True, but your best player has to be at the front of the parade. And if Myles Garrett can take that motivational log that he used for last night's game, coming off a game in which he didn't record a stat, by the way, there's two different Myles Garretts. There's pissed off Myles Garrett, and it's a ho-hum game at New Orleans Myles Garrett. TJ, even though he didn't have it last night, at least brings it every single game. When they take that tight shot of him before we're getting ready to snap the ball, and he's got his lower jaw cocked, and I'm just thinking, oh, geez, he's about to wreck shop. I feel it. I know it. Like, Myles, if you play with that kind of energy, not only are you a Hall of Famer, you're already a Hall of Famer. You're now playing for the legacy of the greatest to ever do it. That is not hyperbole. Look at the numbers. 7 straight seasons of at least 10 sacks. He is in rarefied air. He has solidified himself as a future winner of a gold jacket. Myles, what you now can play for every single time your cleats hit the field is the title of greatest of all time. You are in that discussion, and if you play like you did last night in all of the games moving forward, I don't think there's much of a question, guys. I think he can be the greatest to ever do it.
I think what you saw last night was a guy looking for personal motivation on a 2-8 season. Like, you're
Right.
2-8, there's not a lot to play for other than your own tape. And when you're Myles Garrett, you got to look for ways to motivate yourself. And I think this was clearly an opportunity that he used to motivate himself. And we've talked before about the fall off. You know, Myles puts up huge numbers September, October, and tails off November, December.
Sure.
I wonder if that might have been his best November, December game.
I'll look into it.
I bet
was
it was,
sending a
'cause
message,
we've
no
looked
doubt.
at the numbers.
Yeah.
They've gotten progressively worse as the season goes on. September, October, November,
Yeah.
And
December.
he was talking about us too. He was telling us, "Hey, shut up, comparing me to this guy. It's there. Every time we get a little insecure, every time we hit a little rough patch, we go to is TJ Watt better than Myles Garrett?" He was listening to. He listens. He hears that.
I hope he did.
He
And
heard
it
that.
is a fair question.
He heard that. He was like, "But I'm gonna
Last
show
night,
you.
there was no question.
I'm gonna show you. Like, no general manager in the league is taking TJ Watt over Myles Garrett. Everyone knows that. Every talent evaluator says he's more talented. But you know, we gonna talk. We gonna say what we gonna say." And I think he heard it loud and clear. He was like, "No, just look at what I just did yesterday. Take that."
We're going to dive more into Myles in a little bit, guys, but I have a first topic, and that's brought to us today by BetterHelp. November's all about gratitude, and sometimes we don't thank ourselves enough. It's crazy hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything in a world that isn't so easy. And here's a reminder to send thanks to some people in your life, including yourself. If you haven't, Started therapy and are thinking about giving it a try? You better be using BetterHelp. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire and to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. After losses, guys, we do how do you divvy up the blame pie? Well, let's flip that on its head. In a come-from-behind snowy victory, how do you divvy up the credit pie for the Browns? Jason, you want to start us off?
How do you divvy up that pie, Jason?
I give the players the bulk of the credit for that just because, I mean, they look like they had the game under control, right? Early fourth quarter, they were up 2 touchdowns, and it looks like you got the game in hand, and then the Steelers put Justin Fields in the game, and he runs it right down the field. I thought that was a great changeup by the Steelers. We could talk about Mike Tomlin.
Tomlin coached the worst game I've ever seen.
That was not his best hour last night. But I thought that was a really good use of Justin Fields in that moment when you were trying to get the offense going, you're trying to run the ball, and Fields takes you down the field relatively quickly, and then they put Russ back in. So you go from you think you got the game in hand to suddenly you're trailing, and to then have to fight back and come back and win that game. You know, Jameis, they go 4-4 on fourth down. They were 1-10 on third down.
And their one was the last third down pass of the game.
And 4-4 on fourth down. I don't know that I've ever seen that. And 3 of the 4 fourth downs were runs. But the biggest was the Jameis throw to Jerry Jeudy in the fourth quarter, the fourth down completion. So I'm going to give the players the bulk of the credit for that because obviously that's a crazy environment to be in with the snow. And to think that you got the game at hand, then to fall behind and have to fight your way back and win it again, I give the players a lot of credit for that.
I say it's the ultimate team win. I mean, we know that it's a team sport. You win as a team and you lose as a team. Sometimes there's guys that really stand out in either one. You can say, wow, well, they won because of him. Who was it? Was it Ethan Pochich that touched the football on the intentional grounding?
Yeah.
It was Pochich, yes.
It was not intentional grounding.
It was not intentional
touching.
grounding. But here's the beauty of that.
Yeah.
If that's intentional grounding, guys, the game is over.
Oh, probably.
The game is over.
Hey, real quick, last question. So we were on the post-game show when that happened, so we didn't have sound on.
Yeah.
If he doesn't touch it, is it intentional grounding?
Yes. It is intentional grounding if he does not touch the football.
I don't think that
Yes, it is. They talked about it on the telecast.
No.
They said what the distinction was that he touched it.
No, the distinction, I thought they said the distinction was that Jameis got hit as he threw the ball, so that's why it wasn't intentional grounding.
No, that's not what the way I heard it was they showed the tackle box.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter was, what stunned me was Tomlin's indecision on what to do. And ultimately, I think he made the wrong call.
Well,
now we can debate that until the cows come home.
I was talking to somebody on the Browns coaching staff about that after the game, and because the referee said twice decline.
I know he did. He changed his mind twice.
And then when the Browns lined up to go for it,
he said, "No, I'm taking it."
Tomlin started pointing.
Which, by the way, I don't think you should have the opportunity.
I agree with that.
You're asked, are you going to take it or not?
I asked about that, and I said, "Will they let you change your mind?" And one of the members of the coaching staff I was talking to said, "Yeah, they
clearly they did."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, how does that happen?" And you say, he said, "Well, you make something up. You I misunderstood you. I didn't hear which is exactly what Tomlin said.
But you know what?
In his post game
on Jeopardy, when you don't answer the question in the form of a question, you lose the game. They don't give you a redo. You know what I'm saying?
But
you guys know what I'm talking about?
But it's not new.
But here's what I'm saying.
But
the reason I say that is
they do go to the judges and say, judges, will we give him credit for that?
Occasionally, it's usually on the controversy of the answer. Not it's simple. It has to be formed it has to be used in the form of question. To me, what I think that it's okay. It's like line changes in hockey. You have the advantage when you get to dictate that, and as the other team, you have to then follow their lead.
It's easy to say he made the wrong call because the Browns got the first down. I think in that situation,
I'll get to that in a second. I'm just saying the process itself, I think, is flawed and needs to be fixed. In baseball, when a hitter is announced, he's the hitter.
Right, I got you.
And what they gave him the chance to do last night is to respond to the Browns responding to his decision not to take the penalty.
And I talked to people who felt like once the Steelers saw they were going to go for it anyway, is when he changed his mind and said take the penalty.
And what I'm saying is you shouldn't have that luxury.
I agree with that. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But that's one of those gray areas of the NFL.
Maybe it will be changed.
That until you snap it, you can change your mind on a penalty.
Bull, to your debating do you take the penalty or not, I'd love to know what the analytical chart says in that situation. Not that I would follow it. My gut was saying, oh, thank you. Thank you. We have 2 to get 7 instead of 1 to get 2.
Yep.
No, it was 4th and 1 versus 3rd and 6.
Oh, I thought it was 4th and 2.
It was 2.
It was 4th and 2 versus 3rd and 7.
It was 4th and 2 versus 3rd and 7.
And the reason to me that is so big is because, now granted, they'd been perfect on 4th down up to that point, and they had not converted a 3rd down up to that point. That was their only 3rd down conversion of the entire night. But for me as a fan of the Browns, when he decided to take the penalty, I was doing backflips. Great. Give us 2 plays to get 7 yards. I like our chances. When you only have 1 play to get 2 yards, that changes everything. And I think that benefited us greatly. To my overall point, I think, the touch benefited us greatly. Jameis Winston, even though he threw the pick, which you're like, oh, there it is, at the worst possible time. Then the defense comes out, plays complimentary football, and leaves Pittsburgh on the field for what? A minute?
I couldn't believe that the Steelers went deep on that 3rd down
I couldn't
play.
either, Bull.
That made no sense.
That, to me, Mike Tomlin, that was the worst I've ever seen him coach a single game.
Well, attempting a 58-yard field goal in that weather made no sense.
No sense at all.
And you know me on going for 4th downs, but if you're going to go for 4th downs, you can't just bring in Justin Fields every time on a 4th and 2.
I
that
agree
made
with
no
that.
sense.
Hey, listen, I'm not into giving. I don't care what the Steelers did. Good job for messing it up. You know how many times we done messed up and gave a game
I agree with that.
But
they kicked the door down. We opened it and we kicked it down.
But I think that sometimes y'all got to give credit where credit is due. Sometimes you got to if you play well, like he throws for 400 yards or 300 against Baltimore, but well, Baltimore's defense is trash. And then you'd be like, well, he comes in and makes plays against Pittsburgh. Well, Mike Tomlin had his worst game ever. At some point in time...
No.
That's unfair.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm
discrediting Jameis.
But what I'm saying...
What does us saying Mike Tomlin did a bad job have to do with crediting or not crediting Jameis?
No, what I'm saying is sometimes, yes, those guys, it's the game of football. They're going to make mistakes.
I know, but we're just talking about it.
But what we do... Here's what I'm trying to say. We hammer the Browns when it comes to their mistakes. We eviscerate them.
Yeah.
So when they win, I'm going to give them credit, not say that the Pittsburgh.
But you can't ignore the other team's mistakes.
Listen, I can. Y'all lost. I don't care what y'all did.
Listen,
part of the
I'm
game.
giving
It's part
credit
of the
to the Browns.
conversation.
The Browns won this game. The Steelers didn't lose it. Let's be clear about that.
I thought that was so lame after the game when.
I did too.
Pickens.
Pickens says they're not a good team. Whatever.
That's what I'm
saying. That they only won because of the weather is absurd.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for the bulletin board.
That was really stupid.
Let me finish my point about the team credit. Lost in the soup, I think, was the touching play. It was a 2-point conversion that the Browns stopped Pittsburgh on, and the 2-point conversion that the Browns were successful on with the communication device hanging in front of Jameis's face, and the incredible catch by David Njoku, who, by the way, that game last night was a microcosm of his career. He'll catch the impossible one. He'll drop the one that hits him in the hands.
The one he dropped was a total replay of the Saints game.
100%. A couple years ago.
Bad weather, hit him right in the hands.
Right in his hands, and he dropped
catches it. They win the game.
And then he catches the 2-point conversion. Well, I don't think that those 2 plays, our stop and our successful 2-point conversion, are talked about enough, and here's why. If either one of those go the other way, it's a 3-point game, and Pittsburgh doesn't need a touchdown at the end. They can tie it with a field goal. And that changes the way you do things.
Yeah, sure.
So I just think it was one of those wins where you can look. The offensive line played out of their minds. They gave him time to throw. So I just think all of the areas. Jerry Jeudy was up against their number 1 corner, Joey Porter Jr. He burns him for 85 yards on a snowy field. I just think everybody did their job. Everybody did their job. And it's nice to see that this was a team victory. And I thought the coaches were great. So for me, it's just like split it 55 ways. One to each of the players, and the coaching staff gets one too.
Gee, who do you get the most?
Man, I'll take what Jay said. Man, it's an overall team win. Like, and you got to understand, like, we have jobs to talk about them and talk about the Browns, but there's literally people's jobs on the line. People got kids in school. Like, so these games for us, we like comment on them. But man, like Kevin Stefanski was like, man, I ain't trying to move my house. Like, yo, listen, I done you put 5 years in the building. You put 5 years, you done put a lot of bricks into this situation. These people hear this stuff. So when you got a game where nobody really cares, and by the way, it took them an uphill battle to even get the crowd back. Because the Steelers had taken over the whole. This was the typical game where you would see, especially Russell Wilson, and I thought Russell Wilson in the beginning was throwing strikes. I'm like, dang.
I think he hit on his first 11.
I said they done caught Russell Wilson when he done got hot. Their running game was working, and I'm looking around and saying this is one of those games where we talked about it. The Browns come out, lose to the Steelers, and people get fired. But not only did that not happen. They got the crowd back on their side. They were able to execute in the snow. And listen, Dorsey had enough, I guess, gumption to say, all right, Jameis, throw the ball. Yeah. We're gonna fourth downs. He was aggressive. So I'm gonna give Kevin credit. I'm gonna give Andrew Berry a little credit because I'm always over him about your picks. You got saved by your picks last night. Jameis Winston, Jerry Jeudy saved you a little bit. I thought Maurice Hurst played well. I thought the defensive lineman up front, Shelby Harris, played well. So some of those guys, and shout out to Jordan Hicks. I thought he played well, in spots as well too. So I'm gonna give him credit to the team. I'm gonna give credit to the front office, credit to the coach, because I'm gonna tell you what, it's very rare that you get a game like that against the Steelers because those are the games the Browns usually lost. And now you got one against the Steelers and the Ravens. I can't complain about that, man.
I give the most credit, and as we turn the page, I know the next conversation's about Jameis. I'm giving the most credit to Jameis because the quarterback gets a lot of the blame when it goes bad. The quarterback gets a lot of credit when it goes well. He threw the bad pick, but besides that, I thought he played a tremendous game. If you just look at the stats, you miss what he did. Like if you just looked at the box score, you'd be like, what did Jameis do? He didn't do anything. But you missed it because they 100% lose that game if Deshaun Watson or DTR are playing. There's no way they win that game with either of those two quarterbacks. Jameis did a tremendous job, and that 2-yard run for the touchdown that he had on fourth down, we just talked about it yesterday. Jameis is one of the least mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. And I thought he was getting sacked on that play. He
feels pressure nicely, though, doesn't he?
He does 100%. He looked dead in the water on that play, and he knew he was going to take a hit. And he, in the snow, gets hit. He's like spinning around. It was almost like, Dustin mentioned this on the podcast this morning. He's right. It reminded me a little of that Josh McCown touchdown a few years back when he's spinning into the end zone. But I just thought Jameis played a real ballsy game last night. It was the first, he played great against two bad defenses. He struggled against a good defense. And I wanted to see how he'd do it against another good defense. The Steelers have one of the best defenses in the league. And he played a hell of a game in adverse conditions in that situation. So kudos to him.
One last crazy thing before you read. There were 16 points combined in the first three quarters.
Yeah.
There were 27 points scored combined in the fourth quarter.
Well,
and who wants a dome after last night's
game? I think everybody.
We're going to get to that. Hold on. Don't.
Everybody.
Not me. I love that.
Not only 21 points scored in fourth quarter, 20 points scored in like 6 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. I promise we'll get to that. But we have to start with this Jameis conversation because I have someone who wants to chime in on this that I'm going to read a direct quote from. But if you want to see Jameis in person, in the outdoors, maybe snow, maybe not, or a Cavs game, or a concert in Cleveland, you better be using Game Time to get your tickets. The Game Time Picks app features out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, you get all-in pricing, views from your seat, the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
It is game time.
Mike, the Giants, did you see, released Daniel Jones?
I just saw that before we dive into it's all money. If
they
he
don't.
gets hurt,
Well,
they
but they
pay
could
him
have
a
just
ton of
sat him on the bench. But that was cool for them.
Well, he asked for his release and they released him. So
and Mike Vrabel is going to be on the Monday Night broadcast
the
this
Manning
weekend.
cast.
Oh,
with Belichick.
wow.
Yes,
That's
that'll be
fantastic.
interesting. So Sean King this morning called me and was like, "Hey, I gotta hop on."
Yes.
I was
texting with them last night.
I gave him a time.
I didn't. Shout out to Sean. Hey, listen, I didn't see my phone. He hit me up too. I just seen Sean King. Yeah, but I seen that.
Yeah.
So the only time we could fit him in today didn't work for him. So he said, "Just tell Bull this," and I want to read this quote. This
Oh,
is
he
from
can't
Sean.
come on?
No, he couldn't. He could only do it during the TV show. And
right.
obviously we're in TV.
Yeah.
So he told me to tell Bull this in regards to Jameis Winston. Quote, "Bull, stop hating and fall in line." End quote. So are you ready to take the Jameis roller coaster, Bull, past this season?
Well, I was always open to the possibility of him being their quarterback next season. Players often complain that they're misquoted or taken out of context. That's what Sean has done here, and it's unfair. I haven't hated on Jameis at all.
I'm not surprised that he's singling you out.
Well, because I was being realistic, unlike everybody else, that his career, Jameis has been, in his career, very inconsistent.
Yes.
He's had a losing record. I don't really hold that
By
against
the way, in the
him,
micro last night, he was inconsistent.
He's been an inconsistent player, and I'm not ready to say before this week was 2 good games, he's the long-term answer. That's all I was saying.
Right.
I didn't say it wasn't possible. I didn't say he shouldn't be the quarterback next year.
You're just hesitant.
I'm not gonna be sure. I'm not gonna feel confident as him as the long-term answer until minimum at the end of the season.
Okay.
Right now, if you tell me he's their starting quarterback at least to start next season, that's fine. I don't know that there's a better option out there for them. That's fine. I'm not hating on him. He's playing well, but it's silly to say, let's throw away his whole career, which has been highly inconsistent and highly turnover prone, and just judge him based on 2 games and say, well, he's definitely, let's sign him to a long-term contract. You can't be overreactionary like that. That doesn't mean I'm a hater. It just means I'm realistic.
There's no need to.
I love Sean, though. He's awesome with the breakdowns.
There's no need to run.
Yeah, why? No decision is going to be made at week 11.
Exactly. That's it.
Listen, the Browns are still in the midst of a horrible divorce right now. Like, the last thing you want to do is run out and get hitched again.
No, I love that analogy. That is so good.
You're about to lose your house, the dog, the truck,
and $230
alimony,
million.
The kids. You're losing everything in this divorce. The last thing you need to do is go out and get you a 24-year-old floozy. Like, don't do it.
Shout out 30-year-old.
Shout out to G. Bush, man. I got divorced in November. The next year, by February, I had a K-1 visa.
Oh, Lord.
It was that short a turnaround?
He just jumped right back in that pool.
I was like, oh, no. I said, I see this one. Oh,
well, listen,
I'm going to take this. I'm going to get out the game.
This is the same guy who canceled a wedding and then ended up marrying her anyhow down the road.
Yeah,
with a Michael Jackson impersonator in that wedding.
It was wild, man.
God.
So, man, I love the analogy, though. Love it, though.
For me, I'm absolutely, to your point, why would you make a decision now? You don't have to make a decision now.
You don't need
There's
to.
6 more games. I pretty much think we all know what we're going to get. We're going to get really high highs, and we're going to get some, oh my God, head scratching, why did you throw that lows? That's who he is. However, Sean has been very diligent about kind of the arc of his career. This is the guy that threw for 5,000 yards once. He also threw for 30 interceptions once. Mm-hmm. Sean's point is having some time to re-examine everything. What your skill set is, watching Tom Brady come in with the same team and win the Super Bowl with, and also sitting on the bench in New Orleans and watching. I think he's reevaluating how he plays the game. We have said, I know, G, you and I completely agree on this. A 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio is not great. It's never going to get you an MVP, but it's going to get you a winning record and into the playoffs. Now, that's not the goal. We want to win it all. I understand that. I want to see over the next 6, I want to see more of the 7-to-4 ratio. Wasn't a ball dropped in the end zone yesterday by Njoku?
Yeah.
Yep.
So it could be 8-to-4, which is a dead-on 2-to-1. Now, also, Hamilton dropped an interception, so it could be 8-to-5. I think that's going to come out in the wash.
I think that's a little overstated, Jay, because it's got to be more to it than that. If
More to it
Jameis,
than what? The 2-to-1?
Yeah, because it's not that simple. Like if Jameis throws a 50-yard pass and the wide receiver gets tackled at the 1, and then they run it in for a touchdown. Well, there's no touchdown for him there.
No, of course, but all quarterbacks deal with that.
Sure, but
so
that's
you
why
are what your stats say you are, and that's fair.
Well, I mean, not necessarily,
well,
but
every quarter, it's like tip balls that go for interceptions. They count.
But Jay, that's the point of other statistics, so you have a full picture of who
and
a guy
when we
is.
look at other statistics,
Yeah.
his efficiency rate throwing the ball down the field is where, Jason? On long balls?
I did a scatter chart last night. Since he took over, he's among the league leaders in yards per attempt.
Right. So I think there's something there. Here's what we can't do. I know there's this temptation to say, just throw DTR in, see what we got. Let's lose some games and get a good pick. With last night's win, I'm not sure that the Browns are going to be in that 1 and 2 range. We're more likely going to be in the 3 to 8 range. And here's why that changes everything. You're not getting a top-tier quarterback. You're not getting one of the top 2 quarterbacks if you're number 3. No. So,
and frankly, I don't know if there's a quarterback in this draft that you want to choose.
I don't either, because you'd said earlier, sometimes it's just luck. Or you said that, I believe. When you tank, there's luck involved. I can't remember who said that. Jason, I think. There is luck involved. If there was a Joe Burrow waiting to come out, yeah, I'm tanking. I'm playing bullet quarterback. I don't want to win another game. But I don't think we're looking at that draft. We're looking at perhaps one of the most talented two-way players, not that he would play two-way in the NFL, and a very, very gifted wide receiver, another very big need of the Browns. What if you end up at 3 and you get him? That's not an L. And on the quarterback hunt, we have gone chasing quarterbacks for 25 years. We've had zero success. And when we did kind of had success, we thought, no, he's not the guy, and we moved on. And there's some regret there. Stop chasing quarterbacks for a minute. If you've got a guy that can be a bridge, you can find quarterbacks at other places other than the 1 and 2 pick in the draft. The league is littered with them. So I don't think you have to tank. I don't think that you have to start thinking about who's next for next season. Maybe it is Jameis Winston. And right now, if he plays exactly the way he's played the rest of the season, I'm okay with that. It's better than what we've seen.
To me, the Brown, you should always, until you're sure that you have the answer at quarterback, you should always be looking and considering options.
And
what I would say with Jameis being the starter is I'm going to continue for him to be the starter if I were the Browns, whether it's the rest of this year, next year, or even beyond that,
right,
until I have some guy I'm sure is better.
You're right.
And right now I don't.
Is Jameis a top 16 quarterback in the NFL?
We had that discussion Wednesday
I don't believe so.
on the show.
I don't think so either.
Sean King said he is.
He said right now he is.
And we did the exercise. We went through and we named 16 quarterbacks that we all pretty much felt were better. But I got to tell you this. When we got to 14, 15, and 16, I'm like, I don't know.
It was close.
I don't know. We threw Bo Nix in there. Is Bo Nix really? I don't know.
Now they've been trying to tell me Trevor Lawrence has been great for years.
Oh, but we didn't say
he wasn't
Trevor
mentioned in
Lawrence.
the top 16.
What I'm just saying is, what I'm proving is, when we say, this draft isn't specifically going to be good. Well, there's drafts where people told me that is a once-in-a-generation type player, and this guy's going to save the franchise, and then I'm looking 4 or 5 years later.
Where is he? Yeah.
I don't see nobody. It's a crapshoot.
If they start, now listen, whatever this is worth, maybe you don't think it matters. All I'm saying is, if you were drafting all the quarterbacks in the league from scratch
right now,
Jameis, forget contract. Age is obviously a factor because they are what age they are. But if you took away contracts, Jameis would not go in the top 20.
No,
probably
not.
But he'd go somewhere between 20 and 30.
But at one point in time, Baker Mayfield wouldn't win in the top 20.
Yeah,
but
not that long ago.
But now today, people would take him. So what I'm saying to you is, yes, it matters what you've done in the past, but it also matters what you do looking forward in the future and what you want to do.
But two things. Number one, Baker had a short window of where he didn't play well. It was 2 years. Whereas Jameis hasn't played at a high level in a number of years.
Well, he's been a backup.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just been more time. Again, I'm not saying this I'm just talking in realities. Yes, we can always find the outlier to the norm. But the reality is and maybe it's wrong. You're right. Maybe Jameis will be a top 10 quarterback for the next 5 years. I don't know, but
I wouldn't say
there's
all that.
Certainly not enough of a track record to think that's the case right now.
What I'm saying is, in the league now, there's more evidence of players that we once thought were going to either be good quarterbacks, but we read them off, and they've gone to other places, got with the right system,
And the other way around.
and they've been ball players, right? Jared Goff is one example of them. He went to a Super Bowl, and they said, we can't win with you. And Detroit said, okay, we'll take that deal. Baker's another individual. Sam Darnold's played well in some spots. So, look, we don't know if he's going to be that, but at least it's worth giving him the opportunity to kind of see.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
And you don't have to sign him today, but your options are a lot better if you can say, I don't have to draft a 21-year-old quarterback that probably is not going to be ready to sit. He might be Richardson or Bryce Young.
Sure.
And we got holes at left tackle, receiver, linebacker.
I don't think you should ever draft a quarterback just because you need one.
Right.
You only draft a quarterback if you think the guy's going to be really good.
Yeah.
I still think whatever the Browns are picking in the top 10, let's say they're picking 6th, if there's a quarterback on the board that they're convinced is going to be the next great quarterback, they absolutely should draft him, in my opinion, which you wouldn't do if you had Mahomes or Burrow or Allen or Lamar. On the other hand, yes, it does give them some breathing room, maybe not to reach as much as you would if you had absolutely nothing at the position.
And I wouldn't mind, like, say, for instance, say Jalen Milroe slips to the second round.
Yeah.
And
wow, I don't think that's going to happen.
Or a guy, or even Beck. What if Beck from Georgia slips to the second round? And the Browns are sitting here like, man, we kind of had a first-round grade on him last year if he would have came out. Let's kick the tie. I wouldn't mind spinning a pick like that.
No, I agree with that, too. If you think he's going to be a player in the league, take him.
That's right. And that's a good problem to have. Like, Minnesota drafted J.J. McCarthy in the first round. Sam Darnold's had a nice season.
Yep.
I don't know. We don't know what they think about Sam Darnold long term. I don't know. He started off hot. He's been a little up and down
Atlanta
since.
did the same thing.
Atlanta too. Although Kirk Cousins obviously has a much better track record than Sam Darnold. He's older.
He does.
So yeah, they thought. But like, if it turns out for Minnesota that Sam Darnold is a really good player now and J.J. McCarthy's good, well, that's a good problem to have.
Green Bay,
you could always trade one.
Green Bay used to have that dilemma all the time. When
Right.
they had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers was on the bench, and then when they had Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love was on the bench, maybe the way to do it is the way Green Bay has done it. We have, and I've seen Tom Brady talk about this, and when I hear him talk about it, it really changes the way I think about it. This nonsense that the league has operated under over the last 10 to 15 years, where you draft a kid and you immediately throw him into the fire, it's not the right way to do it. Let him sit there, let him marinate, let him learn. So if we find a Beck in the second round and he sits here and plays or watches Jameis for 2 or 3 years, 2 likely, and then we think he's ready, okay, I think the chance that he succeeds is a lot greater after 2 years in a system and watching this whole thing and then giving him a chance. More quarterbacks might make it.
That may be the case. I mean, most of the good quarterbacks in the league played right away now. I mean, currently, most of them played right away.
You're right, they do.
But yeah, I mean, maybe, but those guys probably would have also been just as good had they waited. Meanwhile, yeah, I mean, maybe Jordan Love wouldn't have been as good as he played right away. We'll never know. I think it depends on the player. You know, some players are ready to go right away.
Peyton Manning set the record for interceptions in his rookie year.
Right.
Troy Aikman was all-world terrible.
Right, but it didn't ruin their careers.
No, because the troops were coming. They had enforcements, especially in Dallas. They stayed with it. They surrounded him with great talent.
Teams were more patient if a guy struggled then. Like, Bryce Young was put in I don't know if he's ever going to be any good. Maybe he was never going to be any good no matter where he went. Right. But he went to a terrible situation and was rushed in, and, so.
I don't know if this is a full topic to do on a post-game show. This is probably for later on, but something I've been thinking about for a while. We have 5 years now with Kevin Stefanski offenses. And I think there was a rush to judgment in 2021 of what he did or didn't need to run his system because you just didn't have a lot of experience with him. You only had 2 years with him. Mm-hmm. Now that we have more data on how he operates, and I'm not talking about this year's offense, I'm talking about what he was running in the past. I think it changes what you look for in a quarterback now that you know what he likes. And it's not necessarily, I mean, everybody wants Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. Everybody wants those guys. Everybody would take those guys in a second. There's only so many of those guys to go around. So if you can't get those guys, what do? Find someone who can not turn the ball over, and run an efficient offense. And I say, like, don't turn the ball over. Well, Deshaun didn't turn the ball over, but Deshaun also couldn't throw it more than 4 yards down the field.
Right.
So there's a balance here, right?
Yeah.
But just don't turn the ball over. Like, it's not a high bar that you're asking for. He's proven with his, and I hope that when we get through this, whatever this season is, that I have no idea if they'll do this or not. I hope they go back to running the offense
I
that
do
they
too.
did before.
I do too.
And now you have 5 years of data, and now you know this is what works, this is what he likes, and now he has more experience and more say and more of a voice to say, this is what I want, this is what we should look for in a quarterback.
This is a little muddy. This gets a little muddy because, okay, say for instance, obviously if you're going to say that Jameis Winston is a guy who played his way into a contract, right? Or played his way into being a bridge guy. Well, that means he played well enough and Ken Dorsey was calling plays. What do you do?
I think Ken Dorsey's still going to call the plays going
Yeah, and
forward.
I think he did a fine job. I think to Jason's point.
So the offense that the offense that Ken Dorsey runs is not the offense that Kevin Stefanski runs.
No.
So the conundrum is, okay, well, Jameis looks good running this. Are we going to go back to this? Did Kevin hand the play calling over knowing that he was never going back to revisit that? I would like to know what his rational thoughts.
I think they're just trying to get through this season, and then they'll worry about next year.
I think one other factor in what you're saying is that, and I think it's obviously been trending this way, but it has changed definitely. Although after an early season start, I think quarterback numbers are up the last bunch of weeks after a slow start. But I do think that the quarterback numbers have been trending down from the time the Browns made the trade for Deshaun Watson to now.
Right.
I think there's more of a case of not quite what it was in the 80s and 90s where you could win with any quarterback almost if you had a running game and a defense. You can't win that way now. You can't win with the way Deshaun Watson was playing. You can't win that way.
I mean, Philly won a couple of years ago that way.
Well, but no, not really, because Nick Foles, for all his flaws, was fantastic in the postseason.
But he wasn't very good.
He wasn't good, but that year he was, for whatever reason.
Particularly in that
he played great.
It's the Jeff Hostetler year.
Right, and if he had played like he normally played, they wouldn't have won ultimately, because they had their defense sucked in the Super Bowl. They had to outslug the Patriots in that game. So I think because of that, late 2010s and the early 2020s, it felt like you had to have a top 5 or 6 quarterback or you had no chance. Now I think that bar is started to lower a little bit. You can't have a terrible quarterback, but now maybe a tier 2 or a top tier 3 quarterback, if the rest of the team around them is really good, you can do it. And as you say, there's only a few tier 1 quarterbacks. There's like 4 or 5 maybe.
So what do you do if you don't have those guys?
Right.
What do you do?
So the rest of the team, the quarterback's got to at least be solid, and the rest of the team's got to be really good. But teams like Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, Cincinnati to some degree, although their defense is hideous and they're having a bad year, they have more margin for error around the quarterback because that quarterback.
Especially Kansas City.
The Niners offense took the last player taken in the draft and turned him into a star.
Yep.
Kyler Murray is having more success this year than probably he's had in his career. I don't know what the numbers would say, but they're in first place. He's got 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That's all this offense, guys, or it's the offense that you had here until you threw it out for we all know why. So if you go back to that offense and you get a quarterback who just doesn't turn the ball over, that's really –
I don't think it's just that, Jason.
I think that's a big key.
It is a big part of it.
You can't be what Deshaun Watson was.
Of
maybe
course.
that's extreme.
Yeah,
but
because Deshaun this year didn't turn it over.
Because he didn't throw it down the field.
He didn't take chances.
So there's a balance to that.
You got to be able to throw the ball down the field some.
You know what's interesting? I'd like to look this up. I don't know that there's a team in the NFL that has won with as many different quarterbacks over the last 5 years as the Browns. Think about the names, guys, that Kevin Stefanski has rolled out there and won football games with. A lot of those guys were inferior quarterbacks. The crazy thing to me as I was watching Jameis do what he was doing last night, outside of the Baltimore moment that Deshaun gave us, he played, 17 games here, 18 games?
17, I think.
what's stunning to me is he had one memorable game. The Baltimore game.
That was it.
Everything else was forgettable.
And one memorable.
Or memorable for the wrong reason.
I'd say one memorable half.
His first half was awful.
Yeah.
But what's crazy to me is, in a handful of games last year and a handful of games this year, we've had 5 times the moments with Flacco and Winston as we had in 17 games.
That's right.
With Deshaun Watson.
And the biggest difference between Winston and Flacco is that Flacco's 40 and Winston's 30.
Right.
I mean,
exactly. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Well, people, I said this on a post-game show, Big Nuggets. I said, look, people, the reason why they reluctantly give credit to certain things is because we're the culture and we're at a place in America where you riding with somebody. Either you ride with 6 or 4. Man, I'm riding with whoever giving me them points right now.
Yeah.
If Jameis Winston going to give me them points, that's what I'm riding.
I'll ride with between them.
Yeah, 5. Give me 5.
But
Give me whatever.
long term, like, let's say Jameis is the quarterback next year. I'll say long term being next year.
Okay.
If they're
For us, it is.
If they're going to win with Jameis, they've got to run the ball and play defense much better than they have overall this year.
Oh, they need upgrades.
Can I
That's
ask
a perfect
Jason a
segue.
question before you do that really quickly? I'll try to do this in a minute. Jason, can we definitively say that we have seen Deshaun Watson take his last snap in Cleveland? Or could that muddy this whole thing next spring?
Can you definitively say it? I don't think, because of the amount of money left on his contract, I don't think you can definitively say anything right now. But I don't expect him to be the starter next year, no.
Well, he can't be a backup on this team at $85 million.
Maybe you send him home. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think
I don't
that's
know.
the answer.
I do too.
Is you got to keep him on the roster and just see ya.
There is so much money owed
Sucks,
to him
but
still.
I think that's the best option.
that I don't.
One other thing, I was encouraged yesterday. I heard a lot of guys that I've known for many years and trust say yesterday or report yesterday that they do believe that Kevin Stefanski is safe. I heard some of them say they believe Andrew Berry was safe. The one name I haven't heard used in the safe sentence is Paul DePodesta. And I'm hoping that this organization has finally had an epiphany and they've seen the light and they realize that perhaps it was their chief strategy officer all along.
I hate to bum you out, Jay, but if they're not going to fire Berry and Stefanski, I doubt they're going to fire Lee.
Someone's got to be fired. I mean, I think we all agree someone's got to go.
I would personally fire DePodesta and Berry and pair somebody else up with Stefanski,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's going to happen.
We're going to get to that.
What we don't
That's all
know
right,
is
Mike.
how much input did DePodesta have in the Andrew Berry drafts.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
what we don't know.
We don't know that.
You,
You're right.
you hire a general manager to create a point on the horizon, build a strategy, and go draft the players that you want, not the players someone else wants. If you have a chief strategy officer making those decisions, why do you have a general manager?
No.
What can Andrew
we don't
Berry
know that
do
he's
in
making
a
those
world
decisions.
without Andrew or
Yeah.
without Paul DePodesta?
But we don't know
I'd like
DePodesta
to
was
see.
overruling him.
We don't. No,
Yeah.
but I just have to guess that he's the guy that won the power struggle. He survived all these different GMs and coaches. I'm thinking that he's had the ear of the owner, and he has more influence on draft strategy than Andrew Berry had. That's just my guess because they won't tell us.
We'll
All
get
right,
that
Mike, sorry.
report at the very end of the show if we have time, but we're going to talk about Myles Garrett after a quick reminder that you can tackle all of your NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, and right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out all the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to join today. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Jay, you mentioned Myles Garrett in your opening statement. 3 sacks in the first half. Looked every bit of the Defensive Player of the Year, future Hall of Famer, potential GOAT that we have come to expect from Myles. And when you see it, what he does in the first half against Pittsburgh compared to what he didn't do or did do against New Orleans last week, it can leave you wanting a little more. Can any of you guys explain or try to make sense of how sometimes we see this superhuman defensive end of Myles Garrett in the stat sheet and other days it's just not there? Can you explain?
I personally think that that's a non-story and that's way overblown. Name me the defensive. Does Trey Hendrickson have a great game every day? Does Max Crosby have a great game every week? Does JJ's younger brother have a great game every week?
Clearly
No.
not.
Of course not.
No, but
Nobody does.
The difference, I think it is a story, because the difference between his great games and his not good games is a chasm that's too big for someone of his stature. You can't not record a stat in a 35-14 loss. And then come back and have 3 sacks and a half.
He is recording stats. He's just not recording traditional stats.
No, I don't think he had a stat against New Orleans.
No, he had stats, just not traditional stats, Jay. And
what were his stats?
So whatever. His pass rushing grade. His pass rushing grade.
I'll give you.
What makes one stat better than the other? Just because it's new and you don't get it?
I'll take a sack over a pressure any day.
I'll give you 5 reasons just from playing the position. When you're a defensive lineman, they can run the football. They can run opposite of you. You're not ever getting in that play. If you run in the football, they can double team you, and then you're still not going to make that play. If they're passing the ball, they can throw 3-step. 3-step, the ball is out in 1 point some odd seconds. You're not getting there. You got to get your hands up. They can double team you, slide the protection your way, put a fullback, a tight end. They can cut you. They can do all those things. Sometimes you could be 2 inches away from a sack. The quarterback just gets the ball off or throws the ball away. You only play in about 60 snaps. When you talk about the level and times in which you're being double teamed or triple teamed, we got to understand this is not Madden. These guys are 340 some odd pounds, and there's 2 of those guys on you. And then you have to not only fight through that, you're getting double teamed, and guess what? If they're going to scramble or move in the pocket, they're not even scrambling or moving the pocket your way. There's 1,000 different ways that you can affect the game. I can make penetration to make the ball bounce, and linebacker makes a tackle. If 3 guys are double teaming me, that means everybody else on the defensive line is getting single blocked. Somebody got to get home. If they blocking me like that, that means there's a tight end not in the passing route. If you want to take your best tight end and block him, and he's not out on the route, that's hurting your offense. Those are all things the way you can affect the game, and that's why when you see him get 90s or people like, how did he do that? Well, you get credit for sometimes it's not in the production.
Yeah, well, and not in the traditional production.
Yes.
And that's the thing. Like, as fans, we are pretty much, we pretend it's not the case, but pretty much fans and media alike judge pass rushers solely on sacks.
Yeah.
Okay? How many plays does Myles Garrett play in a season, Mike? Or any great pass rusher?
In a season? Let me put a Snapchat from last year.
Yeah. 600?
I'd say 750.
You know, so if he plays 700 plays, doesn't even matter.
Last year, Myles Garrett
He missed a couple of games, right? 1 game, 2 games.
How many games did Myles Garrett miss?
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
He played 815 snaps.
All right, 815 snaps. The most sacks in the history of the game is what, 20?
22.
22, yeah.
What percentage of 800 snaps? That's all we're judging these players by in most cases, is maybe 2% of their plays. You can't, that's absurd to say they only had a good game if they got a sack. I get it. Those are so ingrained as being the important stats. And it is important. A sack ultimately is impactful. But we're not watching the film. Like, I don't know that Myles Garrett, I didn't watch the film after to see if Myles Garrett was impactful in other ways besides getting a sack. But none of us are doing that, and yet we're saying he had a bad game. Maybe he did. I'm not sure.
It's not just the fans and media.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are paid for sacks. That's what they're paid for.
They're not just paid for sacks. They're paid to be impactful.
When you have a big sack number, you have a big salary. That's the way the league operates. The general managers are doing that too. Obviously, those are game-changing plays, but I don't judge it on sacks. I look at everything.
But come on, Jay, let's be honest. Nobody's watching Myles Garrett every single play. You can't. You're singling in on Myles Garrett every play?
No, but you can go back and watch every single play.
I know that, but who's actually doing that?
Here's an example. Last night, I just judge it on effort.
Yeah.
Last night, there was a play where Russell Wilson rolled to his left, and Myles Garrett had a beat on him with nobody in between him. I think that's the fastest I've ever seen Myles Garrett run. He looked like a 21-year-old fresh out of college who had young legs and just an absolute stallion, and he ends up hitting Russell Wilson as he threw the ball. Russell completed the pass. But that's the effort that you want to see out of your stalwart defensive player.
I'm just saying, I think he does that every week, and we just don't notice it
At
when he doesn't have the
halftime,
statistics.
Mike Tomlin was asked, what can you do to slow Myles Garrett? And he goes, nothing more. We're scheming as much as we can scheme to stop him.
I think
we're chipping, we're adding extra bodies, we're doubling, we're doing everything we can. He's just a heck of a player.
I think we just sometimes underestimate just the sheer difficulty it is to do those type things. You know, when you see it, sometimes you don't put it in context. I always say Myles Garrett by far is already the best defensive player to ever put a jersey on for the Browns. And sometimes we don't have anything to compare it to. When you have 10 sacks for 7 straight years, that's the epitome of consistency.
How many players have done that, by the way?
I don't know.
Is he the
I'm
first?
pretty sure they said he was the first one last night.
Yeah, I printed that this morning.
So,
I've got it.
And think about this. He won a Defensive Player of the Year award last year, right?
Yes.
How many sacks he had? 14?
Right.
Last year, 14 sacks. Correct.
So before this game, and 2 weeks ago, people would have said this was a down year for Myles Garrett.
Only because of the sacks.
Only because of the sacks. Now, he has potential through the rest of the game, for the rest of the season. He could have more sacks than he had last year. Are we then going to say that season?
Right, I know.
It don't make sense.
By the way, he's not
the only one in the last 7 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
because Reggie White did it his first 9 years and did it for 12 of his 14 seasons.
Which is insane. And Myles is on. That's why I say I think he is, with a bullet, in the conversation to be the greatest to ever do it.
Reggie White, in 12 of his first 14 seasons, had less than 11 sacks twice, and he had
Phenomenal.
8. He had 8 and 8.5 in those other 2 seasons.
And I know we play more games now,
Yeah.
but this is what Myles Garrett is being compared to. Not the greats, not his contemporaries, not his colleagues on the field now. He's being compared to the greats of all time.
But he's more criticized than any of those guys ever were.
I agree with that.
It's a different time.
And you know what? So is Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge won his second. I was surprised yesterday, by the way, and I know they didn't used to name an MVP. He joins Mickey Mantle as the only 2-time MVP for the Yankees. But when you're in that rare of air, LeBron, for his stretch, was probably the most criticized player in the NBA. The guy was, sometimes when you wear that GOAT hat, you also have a target on your back.
And part of it is the coverage. And
it's the 24-hour news cycle and the debate shows and the endless talk shows.
But you can always go to this and say, go look at the great pass rushers. Bruce Smith had Cornelius Bennett. When you go back and look at Brown with the Philadelphia Eagles and Reggie White. When you look at some of these other guys, Kevin Green got a lot of sacks, but he had Greg Lloyd. He had a bunch of other guys.
T.J. Watt.
T.J. Watt. He got another guy up here. Myles Garrett is the most doubled and triple team player of all time. If you want to go to the mat, that's like the Jordan rules. Jordan, they was knocking Jordan around, and Jordan couldn't get his money off. You know what they did? They changed the rules. Myles Garrett gets held. Myles Garrett gets triple team and double team more than anybody who's ever played the game at an elite level. And on top of that, he's played for a traditional team that has never had an opposite pass rusher that has garnered any type of pass rush. He's getting all of the slides. He's getting all of the best tackles. Myles Garrett has played on a Browns team who has never had another great defensive lineman next to him.
You know who didn't play last night?
Who's that?
Alex Highsmith.
That's true.
T.J. Watt was invisible. Still had another great defensive pass rusher on the line, but that needs to be taken into consideration as well.
Has to.
When you've got 3 guys that are Pro Bowl caliber players on that front line, you're going to get home a lot. And Myles Garrett has really never had that kind of player for any length of time.
Even impact, think about it, in the run game, even impact linebackers like that you have to say, like you think about Terrell Suggs and those guys up front. Terrell Suggs had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed.
Yeah.
Haloti Ngata in the middle. Like, when you mention these big-time pass rushers and guys, these guys got great defenses. Myles Garrett is out there with Obo Akaranko.
Yeah.
That's not even the worst name you could have thrown out there.
We up there with Shelby Harris. No disrespect to Shelby Harris. No one's checking for these guys, man. And this dude is still putting up sacks. And guess what? He could end up with 16, 17 sacks in what we were calling a down year.
Does anyone else think that he could end up as the greatest of all time?
I've already said physically.
I think so.
I already said physically he is.
Well, physically, I don't think there's any question.
I almost hate the physically thing because I feel like it takes away from the player. It's like he had an event,
Well, it's like Aaron Judge. Again, Aaron Judge, when you look at him, no one's ever looked like that.
Well, I'm talking
right,
about,
but I think it takes something away from how good he is.
I only say physically because I don't want to take anything away from people with production.
Sure.
So, like, people say LeBron ain't that great because he's just bigger than everybody.
Right.
No, you got to.
Well, I always compare that to like Warren Sapp. For the first time I saw that guy without his shirt, I'm like, who is that? That's the most dominant pass rusher in the NFL today? Like, this dude was just as average looking. If you saw him on a beach, you'd be like, that guy should put a shirt on. Yet, his footwork, his speed, his strength, his leverage. Yeah. And Myles is a guy that has the Adonis body and all of the gifts that you need to be great. That's why I think he could end up as the greatest pass rusher of all time.
He's on pace. He can get there.
By the way, Myles Garrett, in terms of pass rush win rate, which I find an interesting stat, I don't know if anybody else does, is tied for third in the league with Trey Hendrickson. You know where T.J. Watt is?
12.
Tied for 11th.
Wow.
Nice.
Interesting.
So last night, guys, we got a winter wonderland at Cleveland Browns Stadium. And I'm curious, Bull, I know how you're going to say, and G, we've already talked about this, so I know your answer. Jason, you were there. Jay, you were watching from home. But I'm curious if seeing the beauty of a snow football game on the lake has made you change your opinion on whether the Brook Park Dome is the right choice for the future of the Cleveland Browns.
Nope. It hadn't changed my mind. Give me the Dome. Last night was fun. I've also been there when that window cut you in half and it's snowing and it's raining and it's miserable. Like, those games are far more prevalent than the beautiful snow globe
We've had
Hallmark
a handful
card.
of those in the entire time that building has been there.
Yes, most of them, it's just a miserable place to be. So let's not get caught up in the moment. Last night was fun. It was great.
Hold on. Stay quiet. Y'all hear this? That's the sound of the Grinch coming down the chimney, stealing the stockings. Little Cindy who?
Give me the Dome. Give me that. Give me the Dome every time. Every time, give
How
me
many
the Dome.
games do you get in the snow anyway?
That's what I said. I think we've had a handful. But I just like the elements. I like it. Jameis Winston had never played in a football game in his life where the temperature was below 40 degrees. Yet he said after the game, I've been praying for this opportunity. He did snow angels on the field after he left the Amazon set after the post-game show. I know that you don't get a lot of these, but I just think that in college football, I've always said the Southern schools have such an advantage when it comes to winning a championship because they can do it without ever having to play a game in cold weather.
Until now.
And you know what? The thing I most love, aside from the fact that we're going to have unbelievable drama in every first-round game, I can't wait for the time Texas has to go to Michigan in the first round.
Well, that won't happen this year.
No, not this year, but it will happen.
Yeah.
I've listened to football players in the North complain about this forever. Every meaningful game in college football is played either in a dome or in warm weather because that's the bowl, that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
That's nonsense to me. Now, you're in the North, you have an advantage for the first time ever. Those big plotting Wisconsin and Ohio States always used to have to go down to Miami or to New Orleans to play these SEC teams that look like a track outfit. And then they get boat raced. Well, one is built for Yankee Stadium and the other one is built for, Comerica Park. Like, I just think that now it's going to be fun to watch that. And if we play in a dome like Minnesota and Detroit, that's getting washed out of the NFL.
Fine.
It's going to happen, whether you like it or not.
Well, because I live in Cleveland and root for a team in Cleveland, I'll take any advantage I can get.
Well,
no, they didn't have it last night because Pittsburgh's used to that too.
It hasn't been much of an advantage for the last 30 years. I would have loved to have seen it if they were playing against Miami.
By the way, and then you guys hop in, but we did ask the chat, and I let this stay up in a poll for 40 minutes. We had over 1,000 votes. Snow football, dome football. Which do you prefer for the Browns? Which speaks to you as a Cleveland Browns fan more? 58% snow football.
That they're prisoners of the moment.
Of course.
Dome.
They're
I thought
prisoners of
it'd
the
be
moment.
higher than that, actually.
But wasn't it fun to watch the fans that had no shirts on?
Those people
I was
were
getting
nuts.
texts from all over the country last night.
Yeah.
People saying, "Your people are nuts," and I loved it. My sister lives in Arizona. It was like 85 degrees and sunny. She's like, "What is going on in Cleveland right now?"
That was the perfect snow because it wasn't freezing,
Right.
freezing.
Right.
It's just nice,
It was
soft,
fluffy.
Snow globe snow.
I thought it was shot beautifully.
And what
like,
was
I
so-
was just like, I'm looking
by
at
the
the
way,
cinematography.
I couldn't even see if the extra points were going through the upright.
I said, I need that camera.
You
They
couldn't
got
see it at all. I had no clue where the ball
I'm like,
was.
is that good? I had to look at the ref.
As someone who is in this category, there were definitely some people without shirts that should not have been without shirts.
Yeah, you're right.
Did you see the one guy, that big fat guy with the tassels on his nipples?
I did.
I
Yeah, I
saw
did.
that,
That,
That was a little disturbing.
I kind of grabbed my chest
Yeah,
in pain
yeah,
when
yeah.
I
What
saw
was
that.
really strange about the way the snow was falling, it was falling heavier on the east end than the west end. Like toward the dog pound.
Yeah.
That side of the field had much more snow on it than the other. Like,
Well-
it's 100 yards, guys.
It's just like Cleveland. The east side always gets pounded.
Yeah, but it was wild. Like, because, like, I root for chaos. So they've got, like, shovel guy out there.
Yeah.
While the play's going on, they've got
One of them was a
shovel guy.
friend of Anthony's.
Well,
that college degree's paying off.
Well, I was rooting for a turnover in a
Majored in
collision.
shoveling.
I was rooting for a turnover in a collision with Shovel Guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because like he's in the middle of the field, you don't
While
see it
the
on
play
TV.
is going
Oh
on?
yeah. While the play's going on, he's 40 yards downfield.
Oh, so if there was like a turnover. or
Yeah,
something.
he's getting run over. Well, I'm rooting for that. Like I want to see a Shovel Guy get run over.
Imagine, that would be typical of
You
like
know
a
what I was
Browns game
hoping
if that
for?
happened.
I don't know if you guys all remember this or not, but there was a game where Miami it was Miami and New England.
I know. I was
And-
thinking about
and
this last
New
night.
England had a guy who was actually on prison furlough. He was a prison worker.
Yeah, it came on with the.
He came out with the snowplow
Yeah.
and plowed
spot.
exactly
So
where
he
the
could kick the
spot was
field
going to
goal.
happen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the field goal was executed perfectly.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of chaos. And I was thinking in my head, if it's going to come down to a field goal for the Browns, like somebody's going to have to call a timeout, get 8 guys out there, and just start clearing that spot on the field. I love stuff like that. I root for chaos too.
McNuggets was like, we was doing a post game. Under no circumstances did we want old boy getting out. Dustin Hopkins.
No, I didn't either.
Well, I want no parts of you. But I will say this. Shout out to Amazon Prime. We talked about how it's hit or miss with the Thursday night game. They got a good one. I'll be wondering what the ratings look like because I thought it was a good broadcast.
Did
I
you
like
guys
Herb
see
Street.
that the Browns and Bengals got flexed out?
Yeah, which is I'm happy
of
about.
It was
I'm not.
It was a terrible first quarter last night.
Yeah.
Awful.
And I thought the typical Thursday night, it's
Yeah.
going to be a bad
Then
game.
it heated up.
The
then it
fourth
got
quarter,
coming?
the
Yeah.
fourth quarter was all-time excitement.
Yeah.
All time.
Yeah.
It ended up being a great game, and I put this tweet out last night, and it implies with this conversation. But snow games are awesome
To
when you
watch
watch
on
them from
TV.
when you watch them from your couch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and that is what the hill I'll die on. And to the people out there who braved the storm last night, like shout out to you guys. You're crazy.
It wasn't even a story. Like
But you make Cleveland like a special. And Justin Pugh texted me after we had Justin Pugh on yesterday. Jay, he's gonna come back on Monday.
Oh, good.
He texted me. He's like, "Yo, Cleveland fans are crazy. You guys were right." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Told y'all." So he very much enjoyed his experience.
Different level.
it wasn't. It was cold, but it wasn't like.
It was only like 30 degrees.
Yeah, it's been a lot colder than that. in that stadium
that
before.
New Orleans Saints game was.
Yes.
Oh, I was there.
Yeah, so was I.
Holy
I
cow.
don't know
That's,
how y'all-
that's one of the coldest I've ever been. Now, it's probably because I'm older and I can't take it like I used to. I'm telling you, my son was in from New York and it was his birthday.
Yeah.
And I looked at him at halftime and I said, bro, I'm good to go if you are. He's like, what? No.
Jay got bad circulation.
I'm telling you.
Oh,
the blood doesn't flow like it
Corey's
used
still
to.
young enough. Corey's still young enough where he's like, I'm not leaving the game ever.
No,
Never.
We're too old for that stuff.
I took AJ, and we had club seats, and we kept running inside and trying to warm up.
By
and
the way,
then back
the
out.
weather didn't help the cold weather team that day.
Hey,
No, it did not.
No, they did.
No.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of super chats, guys. So let's
All right.
do some super chats before we head over to WKYC.
Can we spend a couple minutes on Nick Chubb, or we don't have time?
We're gonna do it in the TV show.
All right.
And if we have time, but we have like 15 super chats. So I
Man,
wanna
it
make
is
sure we
hard to
get these
focus.
in.
Is there a
with
reason
that
he didn't
mustache.
talk last night?
He's Nick.
I know, but sometimes he talks after games.
He's Nick.
he-
he just left. He just left.
I was shocked by that.
He scored 2 touchdowns.
I had.
I'm out.
I think It was Tom Withers. Tom came up to me and goes, Nick just left. He didn't talk. He just left. I'm like, that's Nick. That's Nick.
That is what
Scores two touchdowns against the team that ended the season last year.
Oh, by the way, who all picked the Browns to win? Because I was
everybody except for me.
And me.
Oh,
me and Bull picked the.
Oh, Mike picked.
My headline was Chubb's revenge.
Yeah, you did.
17-10 Browns. Now the score was a little off, but it was.
We did. A lot of people picked
5
the Browns
points instead of 7.
And indeed, he wasn't even. I asked her, would it be a shock if the Browns won? She was like, "Oh no." I've been talking to.
I mean, they were only a 3-point underdog.
It's
it wasn't
classic
like,
Tomlin.
And it's
as soon
the
as they get
NFL.
expectations,
And it's a rivalry.
Yeah. So in the WKYC show, we will address the rumors of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry being safe. We'll talk a little more about Nick Chubb. We'll also do some overall recap. We are talking some Cavs and Guardians in the WKYC show. But let's get to these super chats first and foremost. Chris Fox says, I went to the game. I'm so glad I did. Beautiful, explicit word, game. And it's the one explicit we can't say, so I'm really not going to say it. Aaron says, bring back Jameis, draft the left tackle. The game is won and lost in the trenches.
They proved that last night.
Phil Bowman gifted 5 members.
By the way, I
Shout
hate
out
when
to
people
Phil.
say draft a left tackle.
Right.
You draft the best player.
Right.
That's what you do.
Left tackles are not all built the same.
Yeah.
Like it's not like
Hell, we drafted one that we thought was a can't miss.
Oh, and
now
he's making a business decision.
And now he's a can't not miss.
Right, can't hit.
Phil, Ray Smith, and KR Thunder all gifted 5 memberships. So shout out to
Nice.
you guys for
Awesome.
being OGs.
We love
Kenneth,
appreciate that.
Kenneth Yabo says, I do believe Michael Dunn was an eligible receiver on the end of the line for that play. I'm not quite sure what play he's referring to on that.
Me either.
They
The
have
4th and 2 Jameis run.
They've been using that linebacker 59.
Yeah, I noticed almost like
He
a
jumped
fullback.
off sides.
He
I know
did.
he did.
He did.
He flinched.
But they've been using Dunn and Reed as eligible.
And, well,
on their
that's
heavy
a
sets.
Stefanski trick, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he's done that a lot.
He goes
I
to the
like
extra
that
lineman.
play call where they got the first down, so obviously it worked out, where they had Nick Chubb kind of lined up as the fullback.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy, I think it was, as the tailback.
Yeah, it was
that
quick
kind of
inside
confused
handoff.
Pittsburgh a little bit.
Interesting.
Charles T said, Jameis showed us with Watson, he is not a hater, he's a motivator, which is a perfect person to help your young quarterback. Build around Jameis until we draft
point.
that quarterback.
I agree.
Okay.
Forceman47 says, Deshaun will end up on the PUP list and will not be activated.
That's an option.
You down with
Right.
PUP?
Yeah, you know me.
I mean,
For $85 million, I'm down with PUP.
I don't know what he's going to agree to that if he's healthy.
That's going to be, to me, the big storyline coming into this year was,
Yeah.
well, it's up to Deshaun Watson. This year is on him. To me, the big question next year is, where is Deshaun Watson going to be?
Right.
Because I think either way, if he is on the roster, I think it's an awful move and it will be a distraction.
I don't think he's ever going to play again
I don't
in the
either.
NFL.
I don't either.
Period.
You may have to carry him, though, because of the money.
Right. You may
Can't
have to
you
have
still cut him and pay him?
You can't cut him because then it triggers the dead cap hits.
Nope. I think they're just going to have to
You
keep
could-
him and tell him to stay home. I don't know.
Exactly
You know.
what
Yeah.
Houston did with him in 2021.
Yeah.
Where you carry him on the
Yeah.
53 and you send him home.
Next, Mike.
Charles T says, Stefanski is not a finished product, but he's overcome all the BS DePodesta, Haslam, JW, and Berry have thrown at him, and his team hasn't quit. Let's watch him grow into the Super Bowl head coach here and not somewhere else.
I love that one. That's a good one. Who is a finished product? Andy Reid always says, I learn something every week.
By the way, Charles T. 3 weeks from now, if the Browns lose 3 in a row, will be calling
Fire him.
Stefanski's
So
firing.
that's
Hey,
the way
Charles
it goes.
T. watches-
It's a week-to-week league.
I love Charles T. He's a
Shout
good
out
man.
to Charles T. He watches every day from Germany, so shout out
He's
to Charles
awesome,
T.
Charles T.
Charles.
Topo42, and he starts with Jason, so I'm not sure if this is being addressed to Jason
Nope.
or what, but it starts, Jason, if Watson wanted to play for someone else next year, could he restructure his contract to extend it with lower pay per year as long as we cut him,
That's
improve
just,
your cap
nobody's
hit?
going to want Deshaun
No,
Watson.
who's going to want him?
That's not.
Nobody's taking
And I don't think they could do that. The Players Association wouldn't let him do that, would they?
Why would he do that?
I
He's
didn't
not gonna do
understand
it.
the premise of the question. He wants to do what? Restructure? Like give money back?
No.
So I think this is. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think this is what he's saying. It's a bad situation for the Browns. It's a bad situation for Watson.
Right.
A win-win for both would be for him to restructure his contract so we could move him.
That's not. He's not giving $1 back, nor should he. I don't think he should give $1
What if
back.
What if his desire to play again overrides his desire to make all this
He
money?
can play. He can play against somewhere else and collect every dollar.
He can.
Yeah.
But who's going to take him?
Good question.
Even for free, nobody would take him.
Well, if he can play for someone else, then that's the issue. That's the answer. Just trade him to Carolina.
I mean, he already sat out an entire year once before, so he'll do it again.
Yeah, but if he does it again, career over. He's not coming back from that.
It's a mess.
It is a mess. It's going to be a huge drama to follow.
You've got baggage and crappy play for 3 years. Why would anybody take him?
Well, what I'm saying is maybe a Carolina. You know, he played at Clemson. I know it's South Carolina, it's North Carolina. I'm just.
You're gonna have to,
Carolina's got no answer.
Yeah,
and maybe they think that there's something there. You know, the intoxication of thinking that there's got to be something still in there. If he gets his head right, who knows?
Hey, look,
I just don't want to be the experiment.
The Browns, if the Browns don't think too hard about it. If you got it, you can't move them because of the cap hit. Hey, listen, the move on train should be loud and clear. Hey, let's move on, bro. We'll figure something out. But if you got to eat the money and he's going to have to stay here, he's going to have to stay here.
And maybe you do carry him as a backup. Maybe he's the number 2 quarterback.
I think you carry him on the roster for one more year, tell him to go home, and then you cut him after next year.
If he wants to, and here's the thing I'm going to say. If
we got 2 more.
Okay, if he wants to be a regular quarterback and a citizen and he's part of the team, I don't have no problem with him being there. I don't have to send him home. Like, he can just come to practice.
All right, last 2. Marinko Milo says performance is not just based on the past, it can improve. And last but not least, Charles T says, Jason, high risk, high reward, next chick, side chick, it could all help you get over that ex.
That's good. Charles T.
Or just don't marry him. Just don't marry him again.
Hey, listen, what's worse, alimony or child support?
Yes.
That's a you question.
That ain't no you. I'm good. I ain't got neither one. But yeah, that side chick, they got to have some collateral, bro. You think we just gonna have fun?
Got to be something.
There's got to be something to it. I'm just hanging out with G Bush's looks. Ain't like you ain't fooling me. I ain't that cute.
They want the
3.5 minutes.
fame.
Yeah, that's second.
3.5
minutes on Channel 3 WKYC.
KYC.
Yeah.
Appreciate y'all tuning in. Biggest YouTube numbers we've had in a while, so we appreciate everyone for
Nice.
tuning in on a Victory Friday, and we'll see you in just a few minutes.
Peace out.
Over on Channel 3 or the WKYC Plus app.
Steelers Kool-Aid.
Peace.